You make good money, but why does it feel like none of it's actually yours? You work, the money comes in, and it's gone before it ever felt like it landed. Because it was already spoken for. You're waking up already behind. There's that number sitting in the back of your mind at dinner. Church in the middle of the conversation you're supposed to be present for. And you can't fully be there. Because part of you is just always doing that calculation. Is there going to be enough? Underneath all of it is a heavier feeling that you're not actually building your life, you're feeding something. You're pouring everything you've got into a hole that never fills. And you're running as hard as you can, and you're just standing in the exact same place. So if that's where you are right now, I want you to hear me. I'm not talking to you from the outside. I know that feeling. I've been there. I know it in my body. In fact, I've been in more debt than you could probably ever imagine. Numbers that would make most people sick. And quite frankly, they've made me sick. So when I say I understand the weight you're carrying, I'm not guessing. I've been buried under it. So let's back up. Because when I started, I had nothing. No safety net, no rich relative, no fund to pull from. All I had was an idea, I believed in it, and I just had a willingness to bet on myself. So I borrowed. And over the years, I built that borrowing into a business that did mid seven figures a year. And all of it in the early days was fueled by debt. So I borrowed to buy inventory, and I borrowed the cash to cover the gap between when I paid for the product, when the money came back in. Every time the business grew, I needed more cash. So I went out and got it. And because I was young and had no personal assets, the banks didn't like me. So I did the worst thing possible. I put all of my debt on credit cards. Talk about Dave Ramsey having a conniption. But you know what? It worked. That's the part nobody warns you about. It worked. So revenue went up, the business got bigger, and from the outside, it looked like a rocket ship. We were successful, man. Inside, I had $300,000 in credit card debt, and every dollar was borrowed. Every dollar had its own landlord. I was paying interest on every single one. It took me years to actually make a profit because I was paying so much in interest. Almost all of my profits went straight back to the banks. Now, I still wound up successful, but it was hard. I can tell you, if you've ever tried to build something this way, you know what I mean. It's the sleepless nights, the not knowing how you're going to pay the bills at the end of the month. The part of you that just wants to shut it all down. But the part that knows that if you do, you're going to lose everything. It's the fear that the next stop in life is bankruptcy. So the very same debt I had used to grow the business had become my owner. I was a slave to my lenders. The Bible put it into words thousands of years ago in one sentence. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Slave. Not stressed. Not behind. You're a slave. You feel owned because in a very real way you are. Because careless debt stops being a tool you use and it just quietly becomes a master you serve. The payments are due whether or not you had a good month. Whether or not God is tugging on your heart to give more or to step away or to take a risk on a calling, you can't. You've got bills to pay. So, you stay in the job you're supposed to leave. You say no to the mission, the move, the rest, because the lender doesn't care about your calling. We took on debt chasing freedom, but the debt quietly took the freedom back from us. But you know what? There's good news. And the good news is Jesus. Because Jesus stood up and said the reason he came was to proclaim freedom for the captives. That wasn't a talk about sin in the abstract. He came for the person who feels trapped and owned, buried with no way out. He came for exactly where you are right now and where I've been. So let's look at that verse once more. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Here's what I want you to consider. If you're a follower of Jesus, you're not a slave in that sentence. You're rich. You can be the lender because the lender is the one with the influence, a position or a kind of authority about what comes next. This verse isn't only describing a trap, it's describing how power moves in the world. Once you see it, it shows you how to reverse engineer your way back to freedom. Because every time you borrow, you hand someone influence over your future. But you know what? Every time you lend, every time you give something away, someone hands that influence back to you. So the real question this verse is asking isn't, are you in debt? It's, which side of the exchange are you living on? Are you spending your life handing your influence away? Or are you building something you can give to others? Are you taking the wealth you've been given through Jesus, lending it back to the world? Or are you only ever pulling, taking, borrowing, and becoming a slave in the process? See, every single one of us has something to lend. For me, the turning point wasn't the day I started clawing my way out of debt. It was the day I realized we had built real expertise. It was something with actual value, and we started giving it away for free as influence. And that's when everything changed. We'd get on the phone with people we knew we would never do business with. We'd hand them our best thinking and our expertise with no strings attached. Because our suggestions worked, they came back and they wanted to work with us. We built relationships because we gave. We gave freely. We gave our ideas. We gave our expertise. And that bred loyalty. And we became the people others kept coming back to. See, that was the turning point. It wasn't the debt. It was the giving. Because it's never just about money. We are walking around with so much already in our hands. Things we can give away, lend out, put to work to build a real influence. So let's talk about what some of those things are. It might be a skill. You know how to do something and other people are stuck. Teach it or hand it over or do it for them. You don't lose it, you plant it. Now someone's life moved forward because of what you carried, what you gave, what you lent out. It might be an idea. You give one away. It walks into rooms you're never going to stand in. And people are going to build on it, and your reach and influence grows every time it lands somewhere new. Or it might be what we'd call a door. It's your name and your reputation and the people you know. So vouch for somebody or make the introduction. Open the door because you can, and you just handed something that money can't buy. See, that's the part of the verse we miss. The lender is the one who gains. Not by hoarding, not by keeping it in, but by giving the right thing to the right person on purpose. You stop being the slave and you start being the source. And don't think this is just a business talk. This is actually straight out of Jesus' mouth. He told a story about a master who gave his servants the money before a journey. One buried his out of fear and gave it back untouched. The others put theirs to work. So they used it to build businesses and to lend it out. And they sent it into the world so it could multiply. And the master came back. What did he give the faithful ones? He gave them authority. He said, "You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much." That's the whole thing right there. The ones who took what they'd been given, put it out into the world, didn't just get more money back. They got expanded authority, more influence, and a bigger assignment. The one who got rebuked wasn't the one who took a risk. It was the one who clutched what he had. He buried it. He kept it safe and small. And he produced nothing for anyone. So, which is it going to be? Are you burying what you've been given to keep it safe? Or are you putting it out into the world so it can come back as influence and authority that you can steward for God? Here's how I think about it now, on both sides, because there are two sides to this coin. On the borrowing side, before I take on debt, I ask, is this funding something that produces or just funding a lifestyle? Who am I borrowing from? What do they own of me when I do? If it turns bad, can I survive it? We do it with our eyes open. But the bigger question now is on the lending side. What has God put in my hands? Money, skill, idea, a platform? connections? Where am I burying it out of fear instead of putting it to work? And who could I lend it to that would multiply it into something neither of us could build alone? Because the goal isn't a zero balance. The goal is to move from the servant side of the verse to the source's side. To stop being someone whose mornings are owned, become someone whose influence just keeps expanding because of what they faithfully give away. I'm grateful for what debt let me build. I really am. But the day everything changed wasn't the day I made a payment. It was the day I stopped asking, what do I owe? And started asking, what do I have to give? The borrower is slave to the lender. That's not just a warning. It's a blueprint for how power and authority move and how you can change the direction they're moving in your life. And it puts a question in front of all of us. Are you going to spend your life handing your influence away? Or are you going to take what God put in your hands, send it out into the world, and become someone He can trust with much?